A Category 5 storm is coming for Long Island, and that only means one thing. It is playoff time for your Carolina Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the beat writer over at the Hockey Arts covering the Carolina Hurricanes, and I'm also the host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly show about the Carolina Hurricanes, along with this one here at Locked On Hurricanes. Very exciting episode today. Going to be joining Gil Martin, the host of the Locked On Islanders, as we do the preview crossover show between the New York Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes for the first round of the 2024 playoffs. So we're going to go over key storylines going into the series, who are the players to watch out for, and probably X factors, predictions, all of that good stuff. Very, very excited to do this episode with Gil, and hope you all enjoy this crossover with him. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go. Mobile hit twist on a classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. And without further ado, let's head over to that crossover between me and Gil Martin to talk with the New York Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes for the first round of the 2024 NHL Playoffs.
It is the most wonderful time of the hockey year now as we prepare to start the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the New York Islanders and Carolina Hurricanes are going head-to-head in the first round. So for our special crossover edition and playoff preview, I bring in the host of Locked On Hurricanes, Zach Martin. And Zach, welcome to the special crossover. Are you ready for this playoff series?
I am more than ready for this playoff series. 82 games are out of the way. Now it's time for the real season to begin, which is the playoffs. And I'm just really looking forward to it. And actually very excited to do the first ever crossover here, part of Locked On. But Gil, I have to ask you, are you ready for a rematch of last year's playoff series once again?
Well, I'm hoping for a different outcome than last year's playoff series.
Well,
but am I ready for the rematch? Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, this is not the matchup that Islander fans wanted. In fact, I did a poll on YouTube, and I think only 7% wanted the Hurricanes as compared to the Rangers or the Bruins, who were the other possibilities at that time. Right. But this is what we've got, and it should be a very challenging and very tight series. So bring it on. At this point, I'm looking forward to what should be a very good series. Last year it went 6. Let's see what happens this year and who ends up emerging victorious. But Zach, right now, as we have come to the end of the regular season, what are the biggest storylines surrounding the Carolina Hurricanes?
I would think definitely for the biggest storylines is just how, the goaltending, because there's already, they're asking, Rod Brind'amour, are you going to go with the rotation like you have been for the last, 20 some games of the season, or are you going to go with the number one goalie? And, Brind'amour is basically saying anything is possible. You could see a rotation. You could see them going with a, who's riding the hot hand. So of course, the head coach likes to keep it a little close to the vest. They're going to give you all the secrets, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they go either way on that, just depending on kind of what the real big plan is. And I would say not super huge, but worth noting. They don't know if Jesper Foss is going to be ready to go Saturday because he actually got hurt in the last game of the season against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Tuesday. So, are you possibly one of your regulars short, and are you going to one of the healthy extras? So, but I would say right now, goaltending is probably the biggest question mark of just like, what's the plan of a rotation, or are you riding with a hot hand? So,
who would you?
It'd be very interesting to see how they do that.
Who would you start in game one?
I would say Frederick Anderson game one. I mean, Pierre Kachuk has been playing out of his mind all playoff, the whole regular season since Frederick Anderson went out, and then of course, Antti Raanta struggling a little bit and stuff like that. But the way Frederick Anderson has been playing ever since he came back, I mean, if you're looking at just overall how he's been, it's just you really couldn't ask much more out of a guy who's 13-2, 1.84 goals against, a .932 save percentage. And the fact that he's already gotten, 3 shutouts since he's been back, I would say you go with him starting out. Nothing against Piotr, but Frederick Anderson, since being back, he's been playing lights out hockey. Got 9 wins since he's been back. So I would go with Frederick Anderson, game 1.
Do you think the team plays better defensively in front of Anderson, or has Anderson just been that good, or is it a combination?
I would say it's a combination. It's a little mix of both. Like Frederick Anderson's a really good goaltender. I mean, we saw last year in the playoffs too. You look at the Eastern Conference Final, every game was lost by 1 goal. And his goals against and his save percentage were just like basically how it was in the regular season this year. So I say he plays really well, but also the team plays really well too. I mean, you look at one of the most structured defenses in the league where you're averaging less than 23 shots a game against some opponents, and sometimes they're holding opponents to single digits. So I'd say it's a good combination of both, really, if you're looking at it that way.
Before the loss in the season finale against Columbus, this team was red hot on a winning streak. What were they doing so well down the stretch?
I would say just contributing from everywhere you can really think of it, especially from that top line of Sebastian Aho, Jake Guentzel, and Seth Jarvis. Just you look at how in all situations, goals for and against, you're talking 2, maybe if that, against those guys, and then they've basically been lights out ever since. I mean, you're looking at Sebastian Aho, almost had 90 points. He was 1 short of that. Seth Jarvis is 3 points short of 70. Jake Guentzel has gone well over 20 points in the very limited time he was with the Hurricanes. Since he's been with the Hurricanes, it's just they've been really good. The blue line's been scoring like crazy too. It's just you're seeing guys up and down the lineup scoring, and that's just how it was. And they had a 5-game winning streak going into the last game of the season. Of course, against Columbus, a lot of their regulars are out. Like you're talking Jack Drury on the top line with Martin Necas, and you got Jordan Martin as the 4th line center with Jackson Blake and Scott Morrow and Bradley Leduc. So you had one guy who's played 2 games, and you had 2 debuts in that same game as well. So yeah, that last game is kind of just all right, let's see what the young guys can do. And that's really how it was. But overall, just the way they've just been clicking on all cylinders, everyone's healthy, and it's just been working out for the team, honestly. That's just how good the Hurricanes have been.
Makes sense. Sounds like they're ready to play.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. But so for you, Gil, for the Islanders, what's the big storylines coming into the series for them?
I think it's the strong finish that they had to the season. With about 10 games left, they had about a 10% chance of making the playoffs, and they got points in their last 8 games. Yeah. Really finishing the season strong when it mattered most. And a lot of people are wondering how much of that is the coaching of Patrick Roy. And as the team adjusted to him and his expectations and the way he does things, it seems like they won. Now, the big issue with the Islanders throughout this season was inconsistency. And it wasn't just game to game. It was sometimes period to period or shift to shift where, one minute they would look outstanding and the next minute they would, lose to the San Jose Sharks. So, getting that consistency down the stretch was big, but can that consistency carry over into the playoffs? That's a big question. And I think, the fact that the Islanders are a veteran team, a team of players who have been there and done that, will be to their advantage once the playoffs get started.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, then that's, I think we even talked before the show, it's just the fact of it's always tough when you see, you're already in the playoff, you already know what you're doing for, but then you got a team like, the Islanders, they're coming in already playing playoff hockey since mid-March. Like you said, less than 10%. No one thought they were going to make it in, and went on a 6-game winning streak and all that stuff. Do you think being a team like that, where you kind of already been fighting for your lives for that long of a stretch, maybe might give you a little bit more of a boost than what people see in terms of just the points by the end of the season, just because of how much playoff hockey you guys have already been doing even before the playoffs started?
Yeah, I mean, you want to come into the playoffs hitting on all cylinders. You want to be hot. You want to be playing your best hockey. And I think the Islanders are doing that as of late, and that's certainly preferable to, letting your foot off the gas and hoping to recapture that intensity once the playoffs get underway. So I think that is a positive for the Islanders, assuming they did not exhaust themselves just to get into the playoffs, which is, the other side of that coin. But right now, I think yeah, that's a positive for the Islanders that they have been in playoff mode. They play a playoff style of hockey when they're doing their best, and I think they will be ready for game one.
No, yeah, totally. And that, like you said, that's the weird. That's like you look at it, and it's always an interesting like flip side of the coin. Yeah, you're playing really meaningful hockey, but also, like you said, you can also get really tired before it actually starts in meaningful games. And then you look at, goaltending. I know it's probably a big question for you guys as well, and even like health of some of your players. Like I know Noah Dobson's kind of like I've heard that he might be okay, but it's like you're still wondering like how he's going to be in the playoffs. Like, do you think that the blue line and Noah Dobson, if he's going, do you think that it might add a boost for the Islanders going into the playoffs if he's kind of the Noah Dobson everyone thinks he really is or should be?
He would be a huge key because Noah Dobson is the power play quarterback. He is your best puck-moving defenseman. He is the biggest offensive threat on the blue line by a wide margin. So getting him healthy, getting him close to 100%. I think no hockey player is 100% at this time of year after playing 82 games.
Yeah.
But getting him close to 100% and ready to go is a big thing for the Islanders because of the importance of the role he plays, and that there's nobody else on the roster. Yeah, Mike Riley can give you some offense. Sebastian Aho, Islanders version, can give you some offense from the blue line, but nobody does anything close to the level that Noah Dobson provides.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. And that's what I've talking to a lot of other, just people around the league and just Islanders fans and either the Hurricanes fans are like, who do you think could be a sleeper for the Islanders? I'm like, Noah Dobson. If he's going, I would kind of watch out. And going back to Sebastian Aho real quick, I really hope we don't get the low-hanging fruit questions from national media about the Sebastian Aho thing because, like, come on. let's just not. But
yeah,
but
different players, different positions from different countries,
right?
Have to have the same name,
right? Exactly. Yeah, but no, honestly, I think if Noah Dobson can be the guy that, like you said, no one's 100%, but if he's anywhere near where he is, I wouldn't really count out that blue line to kind of make some noise and shake some things up for sure.
Yeah, it should be very interesting to see, and having Dobson healthy is important to the Islanders. We've got a lot more to discuss on this special crossover playoff preview. We'll take a look at some key players to watch in this series for both teams. We've got that and a lot more coming up on this special crossover episode of Locked On Islanders and Locked On Hurricanes. Today's episode is brought to you by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 a year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. So you can check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click on the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Zach, give me an idea, one player, if you had to just pick one, and I know that's hard, but who was the biggest key component to the Carolina Hurricanes' success in this series?
Oh, man. Like you said, that's a tough question. There's so many names you can think of. And Yeah, you could go to Sebastian Aho, who had the most points on the team. You could also go to Seth Jarvis, who had a career year as well. But I'm going to have to put it on Jake Gensel. I mean, 17 games with the Hurricanes, 8 goals, 17 assists for 25 points. I just don't know how you don't look at this guy and not look at him as the key player for the playoffs. Because you can see it. You know, all time he's like second or third in terms of just points per game and where he's at. He takes it to the next level, and everyone's always asked the question: can he do without Crosby? He's only good because he's got Crosby. Comes over to Carolina, doesn't really lose a step. Over 25 points in 17 games, and he's been on that top line with Aho and Jarvis for so long that they're probably one of the most lethal forward lines in the NHL right now. So, if you're looking for a key player to make a really big impact on this series, I would say look no farther than Jake Gensel, who it's still mind blowing that he's a Carolina Hurricane. It's been that many games already, but I would definitely watch out for him. Who would you think would be a key player to watch for the Islanders in this series, Gil?
Well, you mentioned Noah Dobson. I think he's important, and I think another player who is important is Bo Horvat. And Horvat he's not the captain of the Islanders, but he is definitely one of the leaders of the Islanders. And, even in the season finale against the Penguins, in a game that meant nothing to the Islanders, didn't affect the standings, didn't affect their playoff opponent, he was out there giving his all, leading by example, creating scoring chances, sacrificing his body. So to me, he sets the tone in a lot of ways for the Islanders, especially offensively, because the Islanders are a little bit offensively challenged, as we know. So to me, Bo Horvat setting the tone and taking on sort of a leadership role is going to be vital for the Islanders.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can never look past Bo Horvat and the fact that you guys, the trade you got for him, the contract you gave him as well. It's you don't give a guy a contract like that if you don't think he's a very important player as well. And I mean, if we're going for another player, I would definitely keep an eye on, and I've already kind of said him, is Seth Jarvis. Career year in terms of goals, assists, and points: 33 goals, 34 assists, 67 points. He was second on the team in plus minus with a plus 23. Second in game-winning goals with 9. He also got 2 shorthanded goals, and here's the one thing that I think would make a very key thing if we see a lot of penalties and a lot of man advantages and stuff like that. He had 13 power play goals, and that led the entire team this year. He had 2 his previous 2 seasons combined. This season, 13 with all the shorthanded goals too. Just the fact that you saw how his 200-foot game was gotten better, because all last year people thought, he's in a sophomore slump, what's going on? No, he was just learning to get his 200-foot game better, and that's why you've seen Rod Brind'amour throw him on power play, penalty kill, any type of zone, he's there. He throws the body. He's 5'10", 175. He was 4th on the Hurricanes in hits. Yeah. He full of energy, a wrecking ball, but he can score at will at any time. His 30th goal that he scored, shorthanded goal, just puts it on net, circles the net, grabs the puck and backhands it in for 30, and that was just it. And that's just how he's been. So I would say another key player is Seth Jarvis, just because of the huge breakout season he's having in a contract here, because he's a restricted free agent after the season. So for the fact of how he's played this year, I don't think he's going to be slowing down in the playoffs at all. He's another one I would definitely keep an eye on for sure.
If I exclude goaltenders, the other Islander that I'm going to mention, and he was injured in the season finale, hopefully left early only for precautionary reasons, but it's J.G. Pageau. And, he's a third-line center. He's not a household name across the league, but he's one of those guys that his importance takes a step up in the playoffs. He will be on your second power play unit. He will kill penalties. He takes important faceoffs and wins a lot of them. And as your third line center, he will be out there trying to slow down your, Hurricanes top line whenever the Islanders can get that matchup. So you may not get a lot of goals or offense from J.G. Pageau, but all those little things that he adds to the game, whether it's back checking or taking a big face off or just slowing down the opposition's key player, all of those little things matter. And one other thing that is clearly going to matter for the Islanders, killing penalties. Islanders were, dare I say, dead last in the NHL on the PK this year. Pajot is one of their better penalty killers. He's got to be on his game, and the PK in general has got to be clicking, or this could be a very short series if Carolina's getting a power play goal or two every game.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, if you had to ask me one more Hurricane I have to talk about, it's Jacob Slavin. Not only is just how good he's been defensively, he has put up points this year. He's also the nominee for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy too. So that doesn't just go to anyone. Like, you really got to do something in your community off the ice, and that's just who Jacob Slavin is. But if you do look at how he is on the ice this season, 6 goals, 37 assists, plus 21. He also got 2 shorthanded goals, which is very surprising because he's not a guy you can think of scoring, but 2 of his 6 goals were on the shorthanded for the PK. And he's one of those guys where Brind'amour and Tim Gleason will make sure that they will put him on the opposition's best player. That's when you see Connor McDavid doesn't really score a lot when Jacob Slavin's on the ice, or you see Leon Draisaitl or Austin Matthews, Matt Barzal, any big name you can think of. Jacob Slavin's on that. He's out there putting the best players in his back pocket, and that's just how good he is. And you look at his penalty minutes this year, 8. Last year, 8. Yeah. Back-to-back years of 8. 21-22, he only had 10. And this is the crazy stat that I'm always going to bring up. The 2020-2021 season, he had 2 penalty minutes all season. And that was a delay of game puck over the glass penalty. Not a stick infraction, not a boarding, not anything. He just puck goes over the glass, and that's his only penalty. Like, that's just, if you look at the fact you look at 4 seasons, he's gotten 18 penalty minutes out of 4 years, and that's not including the 10 that he had. So, that's just how good Jacob Slavin is. And if he's doing what he does best, was to shut down the top players on the other team, that's just going to make it tougher for them to score. So I would definitely, while the points aren't there, and of course we can go on a whole different discussion of what a Norris trophy is. He should have some already, but I digress. Jacob Slavin is a guy that, like I said, besides the points, because points can only go so far, but just how good of a shutdown he is, the lack of penalties that he commits to. If he's consistent on his A game like he always is, it's going to be a long night for your Islanders if he's on the ice just shutting everyone down with his 200-foot game, just how good he is on the defense.
Yeah, no question. If I had to pick one more player, it's actually going to be 2, but it's goaltending. Ilya Sorokin is the presumptive number 1, but down the stretch, it was Semyon Varlamov who was playing very well, and Sorokin has not exactly had his A game too often this season. So one of those 2 goalies has got to step up and just take the reins for the Islanders if they're going to pull off the upset. My gut hunch is that Varlamov gets the start in game 1, but probably has a short leash. But whether it's Varlamov or Sorokin, one of those goalies has got to get hot, because you don't pull off an upset in the Stanley Cup playoffs if you're not getting outstanding goaltending. And the way the Islanders are built, they're not going to beat the Hurricanes 7-6 in too many games. So
no, not very much.
Not the way either one of these teams plays. So you're going to have to get that really timely save and the really good goaltending. And whether it's Varlamov or Sorokin, one of them is going to have to take the reins. So we'll see how that plays out. We have got more to get to. We're going to talk about some big stats that will affect the outcome of this game, some X factors, and of course we'll have our fearless predictions for the series. All that and more coming up on the special crossover playoff preview of Locked On Hurricanes and Locked On Islanders.
We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The Smash It mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play.
All right, so we are looking now at some statistics that you think will impact this series. Statistics, X factors. Where do you start?
I mean, I know they don't really happen a whole lot in the playoffs because, kind of the rule book gets kind of thrown out with the bathwater and all that stuff. But I would say special teams is going to be a huge thing because, like you said, Gil, if the Islanders are committing a lot of penalties, or let's say the Hurricanes are committing penalties because, the Hurricanes love to be penalized just for breathing at this point. If you ever watch a Hurricanes game, the Hurricanes are the only team in the NHL that are in top 3 in both power play and penalty kill. The Hurricanes had the best penalty kill this season with an 86.4%. And if you look at the power play percentage, they are only second behind the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 26.9. So you're talking the second best power play and the first best penalty kill. If there's any reason that it gets insane with just special teams being a factor in this series, Carolina's got a huge boost, in my opinion, for the fact that you're going top 2 in each category. That's a long night for special teams if you're the Islanders. You're going up against the Hurricanes with where they're at. And that's even saying something because Carolina's PK was like in the 20s by like December. And now you see where they're at now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Islanders have been last in the league on the PK for most of the season, or very close to it. And staying out of the penalty box, obviously, is going to be huge for the Islanders because they cannot afford to give extra scoring opportunities to the Carolina Hurricanes on the power play, especially with a PK that is as vulnerable as the Islanders have. And then the other thing to me, from an Islanders perspective, they have got to be able to slow down the Hurricanes. Carolina loves to forecheck aggressively. They're aggressive on the puck carrier, and then they counterattack. They create turnovers, and they make you pay. The Islanders have got to be smart with the puck, especially in their own zone, and not give Carolina those opportunities to counterattack and set up really good scoring chances.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's the one thing that's like, you look at how structurally sound their defense is and the fact that they can pressure you almost anywhere on the ice and making those turnovers and making, better scoring opportunities, because the Hurricanes were actually 8th this year on goals for per game with a 3.38, and just even like goals allowed, they were like 4th in the league at a 2.57. So you're scoring well over 3 and almost close to 2.5 that you've only allowed per game. That just shows you how suffocating this team is, that the fact that they will grind you, but it's not 2-1 games or 3-1 games. They can go and put 4, 5, 6 goals up if they're feeling it. Because, ask the Calgary Flames, they lost 7-2. You can ask any number of teams that have been on the receiving end of the Hurricanes just absolutely just going category 5 on them. And that's the one thing to watch out for, is you see the discrepancy, or like the big difference of the goals for to goals against. Like you said, if the Hurricanes are basically putting their will in the Islanders, that's going to be very tough for your team. But like I said, and just how you talk about with your defense, if it's not there or goaltending's not there, it's going to be tough with how many goals per game that the Hurricanes have been putting up all season.
So answer this for me. You'll be very concerned about this series if.
I'd be very concerned if the scoring dries up. If the Hurricanes struggle to score and you're relying on 2 or 3 guys to score, if you're relying on Seth Jarvis and let's say you're the whole line of Gensel, Aho, Jarvis, so that's the only line that's scoring, and everyone else is struggling. Those 3 can only take you so far. Yes, they've been really good together, but you also need to get your depth scoring as well. And if guys like Andrei Svechnikov's not scoring, or if Jordan Martin doesn't go like Wayne Gretzky-esque like we saw last year in the second round against the Devils, and if the defense isn't scoring, because the defense was, I think, in terms of goals, they were like 4th in the league in terms of goals from the blue line. So you have the blue line's not scoring, and you're just relying on 2 or 3 guys. That's going to be a very tough series for the Hurricanes when you're just relying on a few guys and everyone else is just there. Like, what would be a major concern for you, Gil, for this series?
Biggest concern is if the Islanders do not get the puck out of their zone efficiently. When the Islanders are playing poorly, you'll see them be in their own zone 45 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, maybe longer, where they just can't win the 50-50 puck battles, get to the circles and then cough the puck up, turn it over, and they're on their heels, and you end up with a 5-minute period where the shots on goal are like 8-1 or 8-0 in favor of the other team. If the Islanders are doing that, even the heroics of some very good goaltenders, eventually that comes to bite you in the rear end. So the Islanders have got to be smart with the puck, especially against the pressure that the Hurricanes put on the puck carrier, and they do that quite well.
Yeah, no. It'll be very interesting to see, like you said, just if the Hurricanes play their game, then that's very, very dangerous too. And I would even say if there was another weakness, it's hopefully injuries aren't a thing. Because if you lose a key player, because we saw last year, Andrei Svechnikov goes out after a week after the trade deadline, and then Teuvo Teravainen's out, and then you're kind of having to go to like Mackenzie McEachern as like an emergency call up, and someone's as a black ace jumping in. That's kind of one thing you don't want to have is if you start losing bodies, then it's kind of like you're kind of in a pickle. Yeah, you've got some healthy scratches that could help, but this isn't really the time of year to start losing guys. Of course, that's for everyone, but
right.
Yeah, you're in an interesting spot. Like I said, knock on wood, it's not Frederick Anderson, but if he is, and then it's just Kochetkov and Martin. Martin's been good. Spencer Martin's been good for the Hurricanes, but it's a whole different thing when you're talking playoffs and stuff like that. So hopefully injuries is not a thing for the Hurricanes.
All right, so Zach, let's put it all on the table here. We have Aho versus Aho. We have Martin versus Martin here. We have obviously Islanders and Hurricanes. What's your prediction for the series?
I mean, obviously it sleeps out the window. There's no way. We've talked about it. There's no sweeping in this unless it's some really insane thing that happens. But I would say I'm going to Hurricanes in 5. Bring it back home to PNC for Game 5. Close it out.
Fair enough. I'm going to go Hurricanes in 6, but I think it's going to be a tight 6. I think 5 out of the 6 games in this series, including the 2 that the Islanders win, will be 1 goal or 1 goal and an empty net goal kind of a thing. This will be a difficult series for both teams, and they will both feel like they've been in a battle by the time it's over.
Oh yeah, no, I 100%. Yeah, I'm not saying it's 5 games and it's an easy. No, I agree with you. It's going to be tough. We saw how tough it was last year just going for 6, and I can definitely see it. If it's going 5 or 6, like you said, it's going to be tough. Like both of these teams, they match up pretty decently. If depending on how the just the matchups go and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past. I could see probably at least 2 fights in this series without a problem because these teams like to be feisty with each other, especially if it's like Matt Martin, Brendan Lemieux, Steph Nason. Yeah, there's gonna be a couple fights.
Yeah, a little bad blood makes the playoffs a little interesting. So why not?
A little bit. Yeah, a nice new rivalry to have between the Hurricanes and the Islanders on the island, not on the island. I know better. I know better. I know better. I know I'll get a lot of mention saying it's not in, it's on. So don't worry, Islanders fans. I got you.
Zach, thank you so much for doing this. It's always a pleasure, and it should be a great series.
Yes, no, appreciate it. This was a lot of fun doing a crossover, especially previewing the playoffs. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the series. This is gonna be a fun one, and definitely gonna be fun talking to you on the socials. Doing a little back and forth about these games. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thanks so much, Zach.
Hey, thank you, Gil. Big thank you to Gil for doing that with me over on our crossover edition of Locked On Hurricanes and Locked On Islanders. Hope everyone enjoyed this crossover edition. If you want to find me, you can find me at OneShoeZach on Twitter. If you want to find the podcast, it's Ella_Hurricanes. If you want to check out anything that's over there. And I have links in my bio if you want to find out where I write articles and where I do my other podcasts as well. But that will wrap up a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Game 1 is on Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Bally Sports South or TBS. And make sure to go watch the game. And until next week, guys, hope everyone enjoys Game 1 on Saturday. And as always, let's go Canes.